Welcome to Standard Politics, live on Channel 7. I'm Sean Kimbaloye in Oshogbo, the Osun State capital. Well, the Osun governorship election has been won and lost. The election decided. The people of the state have cast their ballot. They've elected yet another governor that will rule the state for the next 4 years. And that person is the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, Senator Adeleke. Senator Adeleke emerged after the election of Saturday, the 16th of July 2022, after he polled 403,371 votes, while his runner-up, or the runner-up in the race, his opponent, and the incumbent governor, Oyetola of the APC, polled a total of 375,027 votes, with a difference of 28,344 between both men. It's now certain and for sure who the next governor of Osun State will be. The result was announced, was declared by the chief returning officer, who is the vice chancellor of the University of Lagos, Professor Oyetola. He made the announcement after the collation of all the results from the 30 local government areas of Osun State at the INEC office in Oshogbo, Osun State capital, early this morning. I'd like you to take a listen to Professor Ogundipe when he announced the winner, the senator and the candidate of the PDP, Adeleke.
I, Oluwatoyin Temitayo Ogundipe, hereby certify that I am the returning officer for the 2022 Osun State Governorship elections, which was held on the 16th day of July 2022. The election was contested. The candidate received the following votes: Kehinde Nurudeen Olumuyiwa Akonda, ADP 10104. Adegoyega Isiaka Oyetola, APC 375027. Adeleke Ademola Jackson Nuruddin, PDP 403371. On behalf of the chairman of INEC of PDP, having satisfied the requirements of the law, is hereby declared the winner, and he is returned elected.
There you have it, the announcement by the chief returning officer, Professor Ogundipe. Well, there seems been some jubilation and reactions to the outcome of the election. In fact, the President, Muhammadu Buhari, has congratulated the winner, and the President said that this is a signal about the growth in Nigeria's democracy and the electoral process. We've been seeing reaction also coming from different governors and leaders of the People's Democratic Party, after one of their own, Senator Adeleke, emerged winner of the Osun governorship election. Now, a lot of factors came into play, and let's break it down for you. The total registered votes in that election, the registered voters were 1,952,387. But out of that figure, it's only 1,518,303 votes that PVCs that were collected. So 1,952,387 are the registered voters in Osun State, but only 1,518,303 PVCs were collected. Out of that, 827,218 were accredited. while the valid votes came to 804,450. The rejected votes stood at 18,674, while the total votes cast, if you minus the rejected votes, comes to 823,124. It does look to me that this is perhaps the highest voter turnout that we've seen in any governorship election in a long time. 54.48% is the total percentage of voter turnout based on the permanent voter cards that have been collected. But if you base it on the registered voters, it comes to 42.37%. And of course, we've told you that it's a margin of 28,344 votes between the candidate of the PDP and the candidate of the APC. How was the election won and lost yesterday? I mean, did you see it coming? If you've been following the trend and the politics of Osun State, would you imagine that there's some local government areas, there have been traditional local government areas in Osun State that were lost to the PDP? Imagine an incumbent governor losing to an opposition PDP member in Osun State. What are the factors that led to it? A lot of people have been talking and identifying the issues, but let's break it down and look at what the interest of the people of Osun State really is, because at the end of the day, it is about the people of Osun State, not really about the politicians who are jostling for this seat. And tonight, we would like to get perspectives from the different side of the divide. I'm being joined by a sitting member of the House of Representatives, incidentally was also the party agent of the PDP at the State Collation Center, Honorable Bamdele Salam. Thank you so much, Honorable, for coming tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And we have the Chief Press Secretary to the Governor of Osun State, Governor Oyetola, Mr. Ismail Omipidon. He joins us also. Thanks so much, Mr. Omipidon, for joining us.
Thank you.
What happened, Mr. Omipidon? Your party lost to the PDP. Did you see that coming?
Well, we didn't see it coming. And as I speak, we're still studying the results. And I'm sure at the appropriate time we'll be making a categorical statement on it. But let me say this, with all sense of modesty. I feel very, very proud that I serve the governor who is very committed to the upliftment of the welfare and the growth and development of the state. Statistics don't lie. And the data are there for anybody, any reasonable and responsible citizen of the state to check. At the time we came in 2018, if my principal was not a man that is extremely prudent, if he were not to be the type that really is interested in the growth of the state, I'm sure by now, perhaps what the people would have been saying was that PDP perhaps got the votes they got because, one, we couldn't pay salaries, two, we didn't do anything, and the likes. But it is not the case. From 2018, November 2018 to date when we came in, we are not owing anyone. We are not owing any worker. Now, we inherited backlog of pension arrears. Well, we may not have cleared everything, but we are reducing them. Again, since November 2018, when we came into date, we have been paying pension and gratuities regularly. Incidentally, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was a report from the National Pension Commission to say that only 5 states were doing well. We're up to date as far as remittances were concerned. And incidentally, Osun was among the 5 states. In terms of financial buoyancy, we may not be on the number 1 to 10 in the country. But I tell you, we are one of the few states that are paying minimum wage. Again, if you look at infrastructure, we have done creditably well in provision of infrastructure. At the last count, we have done well over 500 kilometers of roads. And most of our intervention in the infrastructure sector, especially most of the roads we did, were roads that were not only critical, but were roads that had been abandoned for close to 30, 40 years ago. Adeleke Road, for example, I recall vividly when we flagged off the construction of that road. Awumalo SAN, who is from that area, we met when we both served as consultants to the Senate Committee on Constitutional Review between 2011 and 2015. He called me and said, bro, so are you guys playing politics or you really want to fix the road? I told him, yes, we want to fix the road. It was then he told me that that road had been bad before he became commissioner. And he was commissioner in this state around 91, 92. And if you calculate, that should be about 33 years. And that road has been fixed as I speak. The Oyetola road, we fixed it. Adeleke road here in Osogbo, from the history we got, the road had never been touched since the creation of the state. That road again too had been fixed. But
so, I think we're talking about all of these projects, all of these things that have been done. Can you decipher in your mind why the people of Osun State voted against your candidate, or why your candidate or your principal could not get a return to office?
Well, one of the few things that came to mind, and from the feelers I got, was one, I think the civil servants fell for the lies and propaganda of the PDP. According to them, they claim that, most governors, when they do well in their first term, because nobody in his right sense will say that my principal has not done well. They tell you that most governors, when they do well in their first term, they don't do well in their second term, and that since we have been able to pay salaries in this first term, that according to them, that we may not be able to continue in the second term. And that they had an agreement with the PDP candidate that within 6 months of coming to office, he was going to clear the backlog of half salary and what have you. For me, because if you look at the voting pattern in Osogbo is one of the strongholds of the Progressive Party. And I think this is the first time that they will be returning that amount of deficit as far as election is concerned. So I want to believe that probably
that's one of the reasons
they may have
we'll break it down and look for further.
But let me say this: I recall I engaged some of them and I told them that they should go and check the history of all the governors who couldn't pay salaries in their second term. That they started showing signs that they will be unable to continue from the first term, and the records are there for anybody to cross-check.
Mr. Salam, did you envisage that you were going to win? If you did, was it up to the margin in which your party did?
Absolutely, Sean. You see, an election is a referendum on a sitting government. When the people decide to go to the polls, in every democracy, it is to go and give an assessment of the political party or person asking them either for a fresh mandate or for a new mandate. And it does not lie in the mouth of a student to assess his own scripts like my friend is trying to do, trying to say that they have done this and that. It's a democracy. So it is the people of Osun State that will decide on whether a government has actually performed up to expectation. And in this case, the people spoke 4 years ago, Sean. The people rejected this same party. They rejected the man who eventually became the governor through all manner of means. It was very obvious that that election was won by the PDP candidate Adeleke 4 years ago. And the people decided this time around that they were going to reiterate that rejection of the All Progressive Congress candidate. And in any case, if you talk about meeting up to the expectation of the people, it has to be based on what are the promises you made when you were coming to office. So if you go and look at the inaugural speech of the present governor of Osun State and do an analysis and fact check, like my principal will always say, he promised to create 300,000 jobs within 4 years. He has not created even 3,000. He promised to establish 9 agro-based industrial parks in each of the federal constituencies. He has not established one. and so many other promises that he made to the people of Osun State that he has failed to deliver on. So this election is an affirmation of the earlier stance of the Osun people that enough was enough, that they deserve something better, a new fresh of life, an opportunity to restore the glory of the state and give back Osun to the people of Osun State. This same governor was the chief of staff to the former government for 8 years. He was perhaps the most principal functionary of government next to the governor himself for 8 years. There's nothing that happened in those 8 years that he can extricate himself from. So I'm saying that if he had gone that route, he would not be able to do that. As far as I'm concerned, just trying to look for excuses. This election has confirmed that the people of Osun State want something better. They want something new. They want something fresh, which the People's Democratic Party candidates and the Adeleke represent. And I'm sure, like we always say, is Imole. The light has come. And this is the end of an inglorious, dark era of all manner of ineptitude displayed in governance and covered up with rhetorics, like we have had, especially in the last 4 years in Osun State. So we are very happy that the people have spoken and they have said now they want something better. And surely they will have something better, I can assure you.
So you knew your party was going to win?
Absolutely, yes. In fact, we were expecting something larger than this, and it would have come. But for the very massive vote buying that the APC and their agents perpetrated all over, sharing 10,000, 7,500, there is no way they could have escaped, being defeated by less than almost 100,000 votes in this election. So and they became so desperate.
The party did not.
Oh, absolutely not.
Look at the allegations from the APC is that you actually bought votes to win.
We are not in government. They are the ones that had all the money to share. And they were sharing money. In my own polling unit, they gave money to some young boys who were going around with money in their jean, sharing to people. And I was just laughing. And they couldn't muster even up to half of the vote that we got. And that is the same thing they did in almost everywhere. In fact, in a particular community where a principal functionary of this government was voting, he started with 5,000. By 1 p.m., he had increased it to 20,000 naira per voter. I had never seen anything like that. It has been the most monetized election in the history of Osun State as a result of the desperation of the all-progressive government.
And the people between your party and the APC?
Like I have said, we don't even have that capacity. We have sold ourselves to the people. And don't forget, the people had spoken 4 years ago. Shehu, I told you that. And they are ready to speak again. They took their money and in most cases voted their conscience. But eventually, of course, they were able to sway some of the voters with the money because they were insisting that they must show them the vote. We did that in Ofatedo. We had to call the security men when their agents were going to the polling unit to see the thumbprint of the voters, and then they would direct them somewhere to go and vote. So many instances show, but we thank God Almighty. This election has been won. The people have spoken. The will of God has prevailed, and we want to thank the people of Osun State for standing solidly by the People's Democratic Party.
Did your party, was there an arrangement to buy votes from your party's point of view?
No.
Because that's an allegation
there was
that members of your party were buying votes.
Let me say this. First, I thank God he's a lawmaker. I'm surprised that you, as a lawmaker of the Federal Republic, you sit here and still contest the result of an election that went up to the Supreme Court. That is, by the way. The Supreme Court decided that matter. And as far as Nigeria is concerned, Supreme Court is the last point of call as far as legal matter is concerned. So I'm surprised that a lawmaker...
Can I correct that quickly? The Supreme Court did not say you won the election. It only said
when you were talking, I did not interrupt you.
I just asked you whether I could correct that impression.
I didn't interrupt you.
It's not an interruption. I'm only trying to correct...
It's an interruption.
Anyway, go ahead.
There were certain things you said that didn't go well with me, and they were not correct, but I allow you to say them. Allow me to say mine. Now, having said that, if you act very well and if you find out very well, what is accusing the APC of was exactly what they did. If you say we were desperate, Cheru, we've been political reporters together. If indeed my principal was desperate, I am not sure PDP will have the opportunity to campaign, let alone come out to vote on the day of voting. We all saw the process. Does that in any way show a man who was desperate for power? Let's be fair and be sincere with ourselves. That is that. We have evidence. that in Ede, the home country, the country home of the PDP candidate, in fact, the display of the ballot paper after voting was too obvious. And if it is not for payment, if it is not for vote buying, what was that? Again, Sheung, by yesterday, when virtually all the media houses were reporting that voting had ended, including channels, voting was still going on in Ede. We have all this evidence. But like I said, we are still studying the results of the election, and the appropriate time will make a category.
Does your party imagine that maybe there were some things that happened that were untoward in the election?
Well, you know, it would be very wrong of me to be making a categorical statement on a matter that we are still reviewing. The ones I'm saying were the ones I saw myself because, you know, don't forget I'm a journalist. And apart from what the...
A former journalist, both of you.
No, I'm still a journalist. Both of you
have crossed to the other side.
I'm still a journalist. And you see, I have a way of constructing some of the things I said. I have men that were deployed to the field to do, you know, some of them.
I mean, because I know your party had a situation room. Your party also had a situation room.
Yeah.
Did the results that were announced tally with what your situation room were compiling?
From them or from us?
From your side.
Well, like I told you, we are still studying the results. And these are some of the things we need to find out at the appropriate time.
Does your candidate, I mean, your principal, does he agree with the outcome of the election?
When you say agree, you are like trying to make me say what we have not concluded on. You know, when you are...
The reason why I'm asking is...
No, you see, when you are reviewing a process...
When the election is determined, when you agree with it, just like Jonathan did, the election had not been called before Jonathan picked the phone and called President Buhari and said, congratulated him. The election had not been declared, the winner had not been declared. So, I mean, agreement means whether you agree that the outcome of the election is the true state of the election, or whether or not you are going to court to challenge it. These are the issues. That's what I'm asking.
That's the same thing I'm telling you, that as I speak, we're still reviewing the results of the election. And at the appropriate time, we'll make a categorical statement on that. I want to leave it at that for now.
But are there doubts in the mind of some of the leaders of your party?
Well, we will be meeting that after individual contributions on what probably transpired and what have you. We'll be meeting collectively either later today or tomorrow. I'm sure by the time we meet, we'll take more reports from the field and we'll be able to, draw a conclusion.
How much of a shock is this for your party?
Well, you see, the thing is this. When you say how much of a shock, for me, as an individual, if indeed what happened was a true reflection of what transpired, one thing is clear. It means that our people have not really been able to appreciate what it means to serve. Because it is a different thing when you come on air and lie shamelessly about things that don't happen. Because you see, to the best of my knowledge, most of the promises we made, we kept faith with them. For instance, we did promise that we were going to look into the issue of single uniform. We did promise that we will ensure regular payment of salaries. We did promise that we will ensure peaceful coexistence between the various religion, tribes, and ethnic groups in the state. We did promise that we were going to change the narrative of the state from being a purely civil service state to one that is, bubbling with economic activities. And if you look at the promises we made against what we have done, I think we have done very well. We have done very well by any standard. Forget about rhetorics, because you see, sometimes when we meet at our individual level, we review. There are chieftains of the PDP who have confessed to me openly that they didn't know that we'll be able to keep the state afloat up to this moment. It's an admission, but you see, it's a different thing. You talk something, behind, and you say.
We're due for a break, gentlemen. Honorable, I'll allow you to respond because we need to go on a break. To some of the things Mr. Mipina has said. Stay with me, everyone. What does this mean? This is the very last governorship election or any off-cycle election before the 2023 general election. It is a testament to what could happen in the nearest future, perhaps in 2023. If elections are in this manner, what are the hopes of perhaps incumbents in an election? We take a deeper look into what became of Osun governorship election and what to expect in the coming days. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us right here on Sunday Politics on Channels Television. Honorable Bamdele Salam, a member of the PDP, a party agent at the State Coalition Center for the People's Democratic Party in the Osun governorship election, has been talking with us, as well as Mr. Ismail Omikwidon, is the Chief Press Secretary to the Governor of Osun State, Oyetola, who is also the APC candidate in the Saturday election. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I'll allow you to respond to some of the things Mr. Omikudon said before we went on that break.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the first one I was trying to respond to when you spoke about the fact that as a lawmaker, we should respect the view of the Supreme Court. I agree with you. Not just a lawmaker, I'm also a lawyer. And I know very well that when the court speaks, the court speaks to the fact. And I'm trying to correct the impression that the Supreme Court did not say that the 2018 election was won by the APC. The Supreme Court didn't say that. In fact, the trial court said the PDP won. The appeal court said because one of the judges did not sit on one of the days through which the entire proceedings of the tribunal lasted, it vitiates the whole proceeding for lack of jurisdiction. And that was the matter that was addressed by the majority decision of the Supreme Court. In fact, there was a minority decision of the Supreme Court which dwelt on the substantive matter of who actually won the election and upheld that election was won on the first ballot and that there was no reason for a rule. I don't want you to correct that impression. The second one has to do with the
case was knocked out on technical grounds.
Certainly it was on technical grounds.
You are saying that
on the
fact of the matter, there was no pronouncement by the Supreme Court.
But at that point, the case closed.
Well, let's not belabor that matter.
Because I think that the PDP has always argued, and even the candidate of the PDP
it is very clear. Even
the mandate was stolen.
The public opinion. Everybody knows this. This is not a matter that the president came to Osun shortly after and said
you're a lawyer, Mr. Salam.
Remote control.
No, the remote control he was talking about. It is in context. No, it is in context.
You asked him.
Listen to me. It is in context. No, it is in context.
So let me continue. You made a reference to the fact that there was voting going on in Ede at a particular point in time. The electoral guideline says whichever voter, whoever comes to the polling booth before 2:30, hello, sir, before 2:30, has the right to vote. Now, there are polling, let me give you one example. In Alushakere ward in the Ogude community here in Ede, there's a particular polling unit that has over 3,000 registered voters. They went to that polling station with 2 beavers machines. As at 2:30 p.m., there were thousands of people still on queue who have not been. In fact, almost half of the voters left home to go home because they were frustrated already. So they had a right by law and by the guidelines of the INEC to go and vote. But about that, I just said it. An election is a referendum. It is an opportunity for people to speak. For 4 years, they have tested this government. They have tried this government, and the verdict is that this government has failed.
That is not
now
correct.
You cannot campaign. It's not correct. You will want the election.
Look,
they have said
in Benue State, I was born in Benue State.
After an election.
We all knew how Osun ran that state. Did Osun not win a re-election? Winning a re-election is not a function of if it were listen
especially in an election where the system
when you talk about referendum,
scientifically regulated.
I will contest that. I will contest that.
Then you are denying the essence of democracy.
No, I am not
denying democracy. The essence of democracy is to give people an opportunity to speak with their votes.
And
they have done so.
What you think you have is not really a referendum on my principal and the government he ran that he didn't do well. I will contest that anytime, any day. Because Osun went into a second-time election owing salaries.
Are you aware that
I was born in Benue State. I grew up in Benue State. I know the dynamics in Benue State.
There are leading members of your own political party who are of the view that this governor has failed. Are you aware of that?
Look, when you say
several parts of this state,
in what respect?
In every respect of governance.
Look, be fair to yourself, be fair to your conscience.
Every respect of governance.
That is not correct.
Including delivery on democracy dividends and management of resources, both intra-party, inter-party, and community-wise. All these things come together in leadership. You can't take one and leave the other.
You don't said something earlier,
yes,
which I also like you to. He said perhaps one of the reasons that each party lost your party was that your candidate and your party sowed lies to the people, promising that your candidate and your party sowed lies to the people, promising they were going to pay backlog of half salary or whatever that is being owed to them in 6 months. How would that happen? Did your party make that promise?
Osun State citizens and Osun State workers are not daft. They're not daft. We are one of the most enlightened citizenry in this state. I mean, in this country, Osun State. And for you to say somebody sold a lie to them and they swallowed a lie, is belittling the intelligence of the electorate. The electorate have expectations, legitimate expectations. Civil servants in Osun State have legitimate expectations. Pensioners and other retired persons have legitimate, and government has a responsibility to meet those expectations. There are some of these people who never attended any meeting, who never came for any rally, but made up their mind that enough was enough. And they spoke through the ballot box and decided that, let's go to a different and a better direction, which is the PDP.
So the argument is whether or not your party and your candidate sold realizable and realistic
there is
promises.
Nothing that was promised. Let me remind you of something. Oh, okay, it was not the challenge debate. It was the BBC debate. There was a statement that was made by the PDP candidate concerning the welfare of the retirees. And the incumbent governor said, oh, that is not possible. I'm happy that it was not even the PDP candidate that now corrected it. It was the Labour Party candidate that said, no, don't say something is not possible. That you could not do something does not mean any other person cannot do it. If you have failed to deliver on certain things, leave the possibilities wide for those who are coming up who have the capacity. So there is nothing that the PDP promised the people of this state that are not things that we have sat down to plan. And by the time we begin the delivery of these promises, you'll be alive, I will be alive. And you will see that they are realizing
will be alive. I mean, you said that this government, under the watch of Governor Oyetola, has failed. Can you give 3 examples of failure?
I just gave you one example. The first one is that when you make a promise during the campaign, you said you were going to create 300,000 jobs. This is
I don't know where that's going.
It's in the inaugural speech of the governor that he delivered on the 27th of November 2000.
Listen, and the question of the job. The question of the job.
The second one,
up to the 200,000.
You were going to establish 9 agro-based industrial parks. It's in the speech. You can Google check it now. Did you create one, not even 9?
Listen to me.
Did you make a promise to the people of Iwo when you went to campaign in 2018? 2018, that you were going to reconstruct the Oshogbo Iwo Road? Have you reconstructed it?
We may not have.
Did you make a promise to the people of Ilesha that you were going to complete the Ilesha water works? Have you completed it?
We have not completed. Work is ongoing. Don't forget that these 4 years, that we spent, COVID-19 set in, and we all knew what COVID-19 did to the economy of this. We all knew what COVID-19 did to the economy of this.
Some people are very wise; they cannot be deceived. Yeah. So the failure is there; they are evident.
By the time when the time comes,
look at education. Look at where we are today in our ranking. Now, even recruitment of teachers.
Even in our ranking, we have improved. Go and check it.
Recruitment of teachers.
We have improved in our ranking.
They sold forms.
We have improved in our ranking.
To employ applicants. I don't know where this is done. People are looking for jobs. They have finished school. They can't even accept jobs. You still sold forms to them, and only after 2 years, you came up and recruited less than 1/10 of those, and you never refunded the money of the others. Who does that?
Let's touch on some other issues. Now, Mr. Omikwido, is your party thinking of conceding defeat?
Sure, I've responded to this matter over and over again. As I speak to you, we are studying the results of
As your principal reached out to the winner of the election.
Look, my principal was sponsored by a party. And the party that sponsored him said, well, they are studying the
leader of your party, the president, has reached out to the candidate of the PDP to congratulate him. Does that also testify to the fact that maybe your party has considered defeat?
No, you see, Mr. President is the leader of the whole country.
And the leader of your party, APC.
But in this instance, he is exercising his right as the leader of the country, not the leader of the APC. I thought we should make that distinction.
Now, one of the other things that a lot of people will take out of this election is perhaps that the two major political parties had a rough running of the internal affairs of their parties. The PDP, you had your share of internal wranglings. Your party had a very terrible run in internal affairs. In fact, the predecessor to the governor was not even in the country when the election was held. In fact, his allies and his supporters were seen to have crossed to the other side, supporting the opponent. And for those who believe that the APC undid itself in this election, that the APC actually defeated the APC in this election. Now, really, it was that the PDP had a good run, but the APC actually had its own failure coming.
Well, I'm sure the former governor and the Minister of Interior has a spokesman, and so I won't sit here to hazard why he wasn't around for the election. But if you talk about internal wranglings within the APC, I want to believe very strongly that we were able to manage it very well. We were able to manage it to the extent that some of our brothers and sisters who were in top at some point, came back home. And if you look at the other party, the PDP, for instance, cross-checked very well. Most of the founding fathers of the party did not align with the candidate of the party. As a matter of fact, I monitored what transpired in our former governor, Omoba Olagunsoye home, a day to their rally. I'm sure if not that they went there to beg the man, he's not likely to have featured in their mega rally. And if you watch the mega rally very well, go back to the clip, look at it very well. There was nowhere he campaigned for the candidate of the party. So if you talk about internal wranglings having any effect, I'm sure it should have more effect in the PDP than the APC.
But it does look like it affected your party more than it affected the PDP.
Well, I don't know what the indices you are looking at, but
no, like I
told you, we are studying the results. I'm sure by the time we are done, we'll be able to know who did what happened, what transpired, and going forward, we'll see how we can, plug all those loopholes.
Before I allow Mr. Salam, Honorable Salam, to come back into the conversation, if you look at the political projection, the progression of the performance of your party, in the first term of Ralph Aregbesola, the former governor of Osun State, your party won in about almost 20 local government areas. Yeah. In the second term, that went to about 18. Your candidate, your principal, won in 15. So people, those who analyze and say, look, the fortune of your party started when going down the ladder, and that it was just a matter of time before your party was swept out of office, and the day happened, and that your party went from 15 now for the last election to 13. You could not muster as much as 15. You only had 13 local government that you could win, and that's how the PDP had 17. In fact, things were even a bit easier for your party this time around because there was no Adeleke that won Iwo. There was no Omishore that won Ife Central and Ife West at the time. So what happened to your party? Well, analysts will say that it was a matter of time. Your party was already losing the steam and was already losing the popularity with the Osun people.
Well, let me say this. In analyzing the issue you just threw up, I would say that I will be speaking both as a reporter, especially as a reporter, because I recall that in 2017, I was the political editor of the Sun newspapers, and that was when the PDP governorship candidate ran for the Osun West senatorial district election, the by-election, that came up. I did analyze the situation before the election, during the election, after the election. In fact, I had predicted that the PDP candidate in that by-election was going to win the election. And the reason was simple. As a reporter then, I believe very strongly that the leadership of the party, of the APC in the state, did not manage the issue that led to Adeleke leaving the APC at the time he left. And why did I come to that conclusion? In most of the places where they have witnessed the kind of fate that befell the family, even if you were not going to use any member of the family to replace the late governor of our state, the late former governor of our state, who was the holder of that ticket, before he died, the best you could have done was probably to reach out to the family, discuss with them, and have an understanding. I wrote what I'm saying today as a reporter in 2017. So if you say that the fortune of the party began to decline from then, I want to align with you, because I also said so in 2017 as a reporter. Now, but if you look at the management of the party today, except if some persons don't want to be sincere with themselves, in terms of management style of the party, my principal has been able to manage the party well than what was obtainable in the past. In the past, the leaders of the party knew little or nothing about what was happening in the party. It was an affair where 2 or 3 persons were determining what happened in the party. But under my principal, that wasn't the case. It goes back to the party, goes back to the leader. My principal has been able to return the party to the people. So, to that extent, I wouldn't want to follow that line of conversation.
So the President Buhari said what happened in the election, the people of Osun have expressed their will through the ballot. And for some who are saying, your opponent are saying, the people of Osun have rejected your party through the ballot. And I was reading somewhere, they were also saying that it's a signal to what will happen in 2023.
That is not
warning for your party?
That is not correct, and I will tell you why. I pray God will give us long life and will be alive to witness what will transpire in February 2023. I bet you that what has happened in Osun, assuming without considering that that will be the result, it will in no way affect the fortune of our presidential candidate, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for 2023. And even in Osun, you will see the result by the grace of God, because by the time we sit down and we look at where things went wrong, I'm sure we'll be able to pull ourselves together, and I tell you that we'll come back stronger.
Mr. Honorable Salam, is this a one-off or is it, a signal of what could happen in 2023?
Yeah, sure. You see, there's a difference between being a political reporter and being a politician. I don't know why my friend became a politician. I've listened with interest.
Who sees more clearly?
I've listened with interest.
Between the political reporter and the politician?
I've been both. I've reported politics and I've been a politician.
So who do you think
I can see in and I can see out. You see, things are... Concerning management of political issues, you see, I know the All Progressive Congress has a tradition that is not very democratic. Look at, for example, the issue of selection of candidates for the National Assembly elections, 2007 election. For the People's Democratic Party, our primaries held on the 21st and 22nd of May. By the 23rd of May, the names of everyone who emerged as candidate of the party, House of Assembly, House of Representatives, have become known to everybody in the market. Every Okada man will tell you that in the UAE, this is the person who is the candidate. It was not under any shrouded cloud. But for the APC, they said they held the primaries, and for almost 3 weeks after then, it was just a guesswork. Nobody knew who won what, where. So some of these issues are very, very, inimical to the flourishing of democracy. And for us, it's good that they are going that route. Now, as per what will happen in 2023, again, as a politician, we cross bridges when we reach there. But I want to assure you, we are focused for now on a smooth transition from the APC to the PDP government. November 27th, we're going to take over. And don't forget one thing. Osun election has always been a morale booster for any political party that wins Osun. Usually has an indication of what happens in the next general election. I don't know how God ordained it that way. It happened in the last previous election. PDP has taken over Osun. Members of the People's Democratic Party in the whole of the Southwest are energized. They are encouraged and they can see a ray of hope. And I'm telling you, we are going to ride on that streak of victory to deliver this state massively. I'm not just saying deliver massively for the People's Democratic Party in all elections. But like I said, we'll cross the bridge when we get there.
The both parties crossed themselves out in several ways. The presidential candidate of your party was in town to support your candidate. The presidential candidate of your party also came to support your candidate. Several of the governors of your party came. They were in town. In fact, they stood until after the election. Yeah. Same thing with your party. In fact, Davido was on the street for your candidate. Portable was on the street for your candidate. You were crossing yourself out in all of this. For someone who say, it's obvious that the more popular candidate won. Is that true? Or the more acceptable candidate?
In journalism, when you are looking at the attributes of story, when you talk about prominence, prominence can be negative or positive. I'll leave it at that.
The most acceptable, the most popular, the most people-friendly candidate won this election, and that is Adeleke. He's a man of the people. Everyone knows. When you see him, he's there for everyone. He's a man who bonds very well with all sectors of the society. He's a man who has, the family name alone is a brand in Osun State. They have been there for the people. He spoke about COVID affecting their government. When COVID was affecting their government, the Adeleke family was busy distributing palliatives all over the state to assist people.
But they couldn't fix the road in Ede until we fixed it.
When they were holding,
they couldn't fix the road in Ede until we fixed it. Which road did you fix in Ede? Tell me the road you fixed. Look, the day we were inaugurating the Okegada road. The traditional ruler of the Babatini stated it clearly.
Don't offend the sensibility of my people.
I am not. If they are that responsible, they should have fixed the road anywhere within the... That's not correct.
All right, gentlemen.
That's not correct.
Many thanks for coming tonight. Whether or not, for those who are saying, it's the last election before 2023.
We are waiting for your congratulatory message. Tell our guy that he should emulate those other statesmen. I mean, there's nothing about election.
My principal governor is a statesman anytime, any day, and you know know it.
So let him do what
If it were not to be a statement, you know how this election would have gone.
How will it have gone? You were able to prevent us from campaigning in the stadium. You didn't allow.
But was it true that you disallowed them?
You were so desperate that you didn't even want.
That's not correct.
What's not correct?
See, you know, there are processes and procedures in applying for a public place, for use. Now, Mr. Governor, I mean, it cannot be the one who will now be saying approve, not approve. I don't know what transpired between them and the agency that was supposed to.
Agency of the state government.
The Freedom Park, for example, is not within our control. It is owned, we list it out to a private business concern.
Right.
And other opposition parties use that same place.
I must sincerely thank both of you. Whether or not this is a signal to what will happen in 2023 is still yet to be seen, and we're hoping that Nigerians are learning that our elections are changing and they are counting and the people's voices are being heard and heard clearly. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. From all of us here at our Showboat studio, many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimaloe. Bye-bye.